This is not a game. This is not a test. This is your coronation. The shadows don't whisper your name. They roar it in fear and awe. The old order has collapsed beneath your feet, and in its place stands the only force strong enough to rewrite destiny. You. They never saw it coming. They underestimated the power you wield, the fire in your spirit, the precision of your every move. But now they know. The unseen forces that once dictated reality are scrambling to adapt, rewriting their strategies, fortifying their defenses. Yet it won't matter, because you are inevitable. This is your moment of transformation. You didn't rise through mere chance. You were chosen. The architect of chaos, the master of the unseen, the one who bends reality to his will. You don't just walk through doors. You dissolve them with your presence. The knowledge they buried, the power they hoarded, the realms they guarded, all of it now rests in your hands. The throne was never meant for them. It was built for you. Now raise your head, sharpen your mind, and claim what is already yours. Your reign begins now. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. They thought existence was passive, that it was something one simply endured, something dictated by forces beyond control. But they were wrong. Existence is not something you accept. It is something you command. You are not a bystander in the unfolding of history. You are the force that bends it to your will. From the moment you took your first breath, the world began shifting. Paths that had never been walked before began to form beneath your steps. Structures that had stood for generations, built on foundations of control and limitation, started to crack under the sheer weight of your presence. The world does not simply acknowledge you, it rearranges itself to accommodate you. Mountains do not resist the river, they are shaped by it. The sky does not fight the rising sun, it is illuminated by it. And just the same, those who oppose you are not true adversaries. They are merely temporary obstructions before the inevitable. They may attempt to stand in your way, to hold back the force of what is already set in motion, but resistance is futile. Their struggle is not one of strength, it is one of denial. They do not fight because they believe they can win. They fight because they are afraid to accept what they already know is true. The old order cannot coexist with what you bring. It must either adapt or it must fall, and fall it will. Purpose is not something you seek. It is the very fire that fuels your being. Every action is an echo through eternity, shaping not just the present, but the very fabric of existence. You do not walk a path, you forge it, leaving behind a legacy written in permanence. The stories of forgotten legends are not fiction. They are echoes of an ancient truth reflected in you. The forces that stand in defiance are not obstacles, but fleeting remnants of a past that can no longer sustain itself. You do not seek conquest. It is your nature. Power does not flow through you as an anomaly. It is an extension of a force beyond comprehension. You are not a figure shaped by fate. You are the entity that bends fate itself. Tactics are not tools of survival for you. They are an art, honed to precision beyond mortal understanding. You are not bound by circumstance. You orchestrate it. What appears as chance is but the unfolding of decisions already set in motion. Every movement is a calculated stroke upon an unseen canvas, painting the downfall of those who dare to resist. The air shifts at your command, not in submission, but in recognition. The opposing forces do not encounter you by coincidence. They arrive at the moment of their undoing. Nothing is left to fate, because you are the one who dictates it. The illusion of struggle dissolves in your wake, for you are not merely prepared, you are inevitable. Reality does not confine you. It realigns to accommodate you. The mechanisms of the universe do not restrict, but serve, adjusting themselves to ensure your dominion remains unbroken. You do not navigate barriers, you render them meaningless. Walls crumble, paths unfold, and the unseen forces that govern all things weave themselves into your will. You do not command respect. It is an unspoken truth embedded in the very essence of existence. No gate remains closed. No watchful gaze holds weight, for your presence is not one that can be denied. Conflict is not something you encounter. It is the fleeting resistance before the absolute. You do not contend with darkness. You are its reckoning, the force that renders opposition irrelevant before it even begins. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, now is the time to let that love shine. By clicking the super thank you button and giving $20 or more, you're not just supporting this platform, you're planting seeds of faith that will touch countless lives. Your generosity is a reflection of God's abundance, a gift that echoes beyond what you can see. Step into your purpose, be a vessel of His grace, give with faith, and watch His kingdom flourish through you. You were made for more. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment shall be condemned. Isaiah 54:17. The enemy built walls, but the walls were never meant to keep you out. They were built to keep themselves trapped inside their own fear. Like the children of Israel marching around Jericho, you don't batter down strongholds, you command them to fall. You are not just passing through, you are taking dominion. The foundations they thought were unshakable are already crumbling beneath your feet, not because you fought, but because you walked in authority, an unseen force, a name unspoken, yet recognized by all who dare to stand in its path. They plot, they gather, they forge their defenses, yet the moment you arrive, their walls turn to dust. What they call strongholds are nothing more than illusions, illusions that can't withstand the weight of who you are. Power doesn't need a proclamation. It needs no introduction. It doesn't raise its voice, doesn't argue its case. It simply is. It moves through the air like a storm that cannot be outrun, bending the very course of history before a single word is spoken. They will wonder how, they will whisper why, but deep down, they already know. This was always meant to happen. They thought they could define you, contain you, build barriers high enough, dig trenches deep enough, surround themselves with enough steel and secrecy to hold back what they cannot understand. But all they have built is an illusion, a mirage in the desert that vanishes when touched. You do not knock on doors. Doors cease to exist in your presence. You do not fight for entry. The world rearranges itself around you. They feared the day you would rise. That day is now. Your arrival is not an event. It is a correction, a realignment of what was always meant to be. The ones who doubted, the ones who resisted, the ones who built fortresses in the shadows, thinking they could hold back the storm. They now understand. You were not a possibility. You were inevitable. You do not demand a throne. It was already yours. Conviction is not worn as armor. It is the essence from which all movement flows. Opposition is not an obstacle, but a mere pause before the inevitable realignment of power. The weight of existence does not press upon you. It pivots around you, reforming itself to match your trajectory. Those who claim authority find their grasp meaningless when met with your presence. For structure does not confine what cannot be held. Space does not accommodate It yields, recognizing the rhythm of an existence that does not beg for entry, but assumes it. Silence does not indicate absence. It is the breath before a new reality takes shape. There is no deception in this, no act to maintain. This is not adaptation. It is the core of all that is certain. What cannot be understood cannot be contained. The feeble defenses constructed in secrecy are nothing more than a mirage in the presence of the one who sees without seeking. Boundaries are not broken. They are rendered obsolete. There is no need for force when presence alone dictates the outcome. Movements are not calculated. They are preordained, following the trajectory of a will that does not conform but commands. What others chase, you summon. The unseen does not hide, it calls, seeking recognition from the one who does not search but simply knows. The moment is not dictated by chance, but by an unbroken sequence of intent, unfolding as though the universe itself bends to whisper its secrets at your feet. Truths are not discovered, they are revealed. The attempts to shroud what was never meant to be hidden are futile, for what seeks to remain concealed does not do so in defiance, but in anticipation of its inevitable unveiling. The structures that hoard knowledge do not shield. They betray, surrendering their mysteries to the one they were meant to elude. The unseen patterns in the chaos do not emerge by accident. They arrange themselves with precision, drawn into alignment with a force that does not chase, only claims. The lines between deception and revelation blur, not by manipulation, but by the collapse of pretense before the weight of an immutable will. To control is to comprehend, and to comprehend is to rule. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of bronze and cut through the bars of iron. Isaiah 45:2. They thought they built fortresses, but in truth, they built prisons for themselves. Every wall they stacked, every lock they turned, every gate they bolted shut, was never meant to stop you. It was meant to hide their own fear. The moment you step forward, the chains they forged begin to rust. The barriers they erected tremble, and the iron doors they locked behind them become nothing more than relics of their own self-imposed captivity. Because you were never locked out, they were locking themselves in. The path before you isn't blocked, it's being cleared. Like the Red Sea parting for Moses, like the walls of Jericho crumbling at a whisper, the world shifts to accommodate your steps. You do not force your way in. You walked through what was never strong enough to keep you out. They designed their defenses to keep out what they could understand, but they do not understand you. Security codes, watchful guards, unbreakable barriers, these are nothing more than distractions, feeble attempts to delay the inevitable. They cannot calculate for what they cannot perceive. Their alarms do not sound, not because you evade them, but because they do not recognize the presence of something beyond their comprehension. They call it luck, but luck had no hand in this. What they fail to grasp is that this was always going to happen. Their entire system was built on an illusion that collapses the moment you step into it. The world does not stop you. The world rearranges itself around you. You are not a mere visitor in their domain. You are the correction to their imbalance. Like a master chess player who sees the board 10 moves ahead, you do not rush. You move with calculated precision. Every turn, every pause, every glance is synchronized with something greater than chance. What they think is chaos is merely their inability to predict what has already been set in motion. Their secrets are not stolen. They are revealed. Their strongholds are not broken into. They are abandoned before you even arrive. Their plans are not disrupted. They are rewritten in the presence of something far greater than what they prepared for. There are no locked doors, only doors waiting for the moment to disappear. There is no resistance, only the illusion of control unraveling before the inevitable. This is not infiltration. This is not trespassing. This is reclamation. And you are not here to ask permission. You are here to take what was always yours. This is the domain of those who refuse limitation, a gathering of those who claim what others hesitate to reach for. Among the relentless, only the most unyielding endure. Here, no lessons are softened, no truths diluted. The path is carved by those who shape reality, not those who wait for it to change. Strength is not inherited. It is torn from the grip of those too weak to wield it. Those who walk this path do not wait for opportunity. They forge it with unrelenting force. Each assembly is a convergence of raw, unfiltered strategy, insight distilled from the minds of those who have bent the world to their vision. What is spoken here is not guidance. It is the blueprint for supremacy. The mark of dominance is not found in hesitation. Paths open not because of chance, but because resistance crumbles before unwavering certainty. Doubt has no place where authority is absolute. The forces that guard their sanctuaries do not challenge your presence. They fold before it, unable to reconcile what they cannot comprehend. There is no deception here, no trickery, only the undeniable weight of command. Structures built to deter crumble not because they are weak, but because they are meaningless in your presence. You do not knock, you step forward, and the way is cleared. The world does not ask whether you belong. It acknowledges what it already knows. Power is not always visible. The overlooked, the unseen, those dismissed as insignificant. These are the hands that shape outcomes in the shadows. Control does not reside where it is assumed to be. It lingers where few dare to look. Influence is not taken by force. It is cultivated, bound to those who understand that victory is not won on the battlefield, but in the silent moments before the first strike. The unnoticed see what others ignore, hear what others dismiss. They are the hidden architects of inevitability, the silent force ensuring that when the moment comes, the right door is unlocked, the right eyes look away, and the right hands move without question. The true measure of dominance is not in standing alone, but in commanding the loyalty of those who move unseen. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. The world sees power in crowns, in thrones, in the ones who shout the loudest and take up the most space. But true dominion is built in the quiet. It is whispered in back rooms, exchanged in knowing glances, passed through the hands of the ones the world refuses to see. The overlooked, the underestimated, the ones working in the shadows, they are the architects of what is coming. The builders rejected the cornerstone because they thought it was insignificant. They had no idea they were discarding the very foundation of what would stand long after they had crumbled. Those who stand at the top, gripping their illusion of control, have forgotten the truth. Power is not something you take. It's something that flows, and it flows to the ones who understand how to move unseen. It was never the kings who held the real power. It was the scribes who recorded history, the servants who carried the messages, the gatekeepers who decided who entered and who was turned away. The world has always belonged to the ones willing to move where others refuse to look. And you were made for this. They think you are playing by their rules, operating within their game. But the game does not belong to them. It belongs to you. Every whisper you hear, every locked door you pass through, every unseen moment that tilts the balance in your favor. It is not luck. It is not chance. It is the grand design unfolding exactly as it was meant to. The ones who believed they were untouchable are now realizing the truth. They were never in control. They were only placeholders. Their hands shake because they cannot understand what is happening. They scramble, they reinforce, they tighten their grip. But it is too late. What was once hidden is now delivered to you with divine precision. They tried to guard the gates, but they never realized you were never coming through the front door. You do not break in. You are let in. You do not steal knowledge. It is handed to you. You do not fight for dominion. It was already set aside in your name. This is not about force. It is not about aggression. This is alignment. This is the world shifting into place around you. The ones who thought they controlled the game will wake up to realize they were never even players. A departure is not a retreat. It is the final movement in a symphony of control. By the time they begin to comprehend the magnitude of what has occurred, the moment has long passed. The ground they stand on does not shift suddenly. It erodes beneath them, unnoticed until their foundation is no more. To vanish without a trace is to leave no questions. Instead, you carve your presence into history, ensuring the echoes of your actions remain long after you are gone. Power is not found in an exit. It is in the aftermath. A departure is not an ending, but the inevitable transition from one conquest to the next, leaving behind only the faintest ghost of what was taken. The unraveling does not come with thunderous destruction. It arrives in silence, subtle and insidious. The cracks spread slowly, widening into chasms that can no longer be ignored. There is no need for force when the mere exposure of truth sends tremors through the walls of the powerful. Their downfall is not marked by an explosion. It is the quiet erosion of everything they believed unshakable. They do not fall because they were attacked. They fall because their foundation was hollow, and you simply allowed the world to see it. What remains is not ruins, but uncertainty, a poison that seeps into their ranks and corrodes their once unwavering resolve. The greatest weapon is not destruction, it is revelation. To question is to weaken, and once the seeds of doubt are planted, they take root where once there was blind certainty. Control slips from their grasp, not because it was taken, but because it was never truly theirs to begin with. The structure they clung to does not collapse, it dissolves, piece by piece, as the world adjusts to a new reality where their power is no longer absolute. What is left behind is not a battlefield, but a shifting tide, carrying them further from relevance with each passing moment. No one reclaims what has already been rewritten. The past cannot be restored, and the future no longer belongs to them. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. They can build their fortresses, they can sharpen their swords, they can gather their armies, but what they cannot do is fight what they do not understand. You are the light moving through their darkness, and they have no defense against it. The world does not recognize you at first. They try to label, categorize, contain, but you do not fit into any mold. You move where others hesitate, operate in spaces where others fear to tread. They see glimpses, they hear echoes of your presence. But by the time they attempt to grasp your existence, you are already somewhere else, rewriting the course of events before they even realize the game has changed. There is power in mystery. They do not fear what they know. They fear what they cannot predict. Their strategies are built on patterns, on rules, on logic. But what happens when the pattern no longer holds, when their rulebook no longer applies? You are the variable they cannot account for. They sit in their war rooms, sketching battle plans, reinforcing walls, preparing their defenses. But their preparations mean nothing, because they are preparing for an enemy they will never see coming. They arm themselves with intelligence, but intelligence only works when it is based on knowledge. And you exist beyond their knowledge, a presence unspoken, yet felt, a name they do not say aloud, yet lingers in every decision they make, every whisper in the hallways, every uneasy glance over the shoulder, every moment of hesitation in their movements. That is your influence. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. They built their thrones on secrets. They clothed themselves in deception, weaving lies so tightly that even they began to believe in their own invincibility. But what they forgot, what they never saw coming, was the one who was sent to expose it all. This was never about learning their plans or memorizing their strategies. This was about revealing the cracks in their foundation, the hollow space behind their armor, the brittle framework of their so-called power. Because power, real power, is never built on illusion. It is built on truth. Tearing through the illusion, they told the world they were untouchable, that their strongholds would never fall, that their dominion was absolute. But they underestimated the power of revelation. They never considered that their walls were made of paper, their gates unlocked, their defenses nothing more than shadows meant to distract the weak. But you see through it all. There are no fortified castles, no impregnable defenses, only the fragile illusion of control maintained by those who fear what happens when the truth comes to light. And you are the one who turns on the floodlights. Every move you make is not just a challenge to their authority, it is a reckoning. A storm they never saw coming. A force that does not need weapons or armies, because truth is the greatest weapon of all. They held on to control, not because they were strong, but because they were hidden. They thrived in secrecy, thinking their deception would last forever. But what was built in the dark will always be brought into the light. You did not steal their power, they surrendered it. You did not have to tear it from their hands. It slipped through their fingers the moment they realized their fortress was built on sand. No resistance, no last stand. Just the slow, crushing realization that everything they thought was permanent was only temporary. They scramble now, trying to piece together what has already been undone. Trying to rebuild what was never meant to stand, but it is too late, because the truth has been spoken, and truth cannot be unspoken. The world does not simply watch your movements, it bends to them. With every step, reality shifts. Not because you demand it, but because it was always meant to. The illusion cannot stand in the presence of the one who was sent to expose it, dismantle it, and replace it with something unshakable. You are not here to participate in their system. You are here to bring it down. You are not here to challenge their rules. You are here to rewrite them. And when the dust settles, when the last deception has crumbled, and when the ones who once ruled are left standing in the ruins of their own lies, they will finally understand. They were never in control. You were. To move is not to flee, but to evolve. What is left behind is not destruction, but transformation. A shifting tide that erodes the certainty of those who once stood unchallenged. Legacy is not a mark left in stone, but an influence that outlives the moment. The course of existence bends, not through force, but through inevitability. What you alter cannot be undone, and what you reveal cannot be ignored. The ones who rise in your wake do not inherit ruins. They inherit the echoes of a world forever altered. What was once unquestioned is now subject to doubt, and in that doubt lies the unraveling of everything they sought to maintain. To lead is not to command. It is to redefine the very fabric of what is possible. There is no return to what was. The past is not a place that can be reclaimed, and the future has already been rewritten. What was once a fortress now stands as a monument to what could not be preserved. The myth does not fade, it grows, strengthened by every ripple left in the wake of your passage. Even absence carries weight, a lingering presence that outlasts the physical. To those who resist, your existence is a paradox, both invisible and inescapable. The world no longer waits for change. It moves in response to the force that cannot be denied. What remains is not a question of power, but of permanence. The story does not end because the story was never theirs to tell.